The Star Wars franchise is about many things, but at the center is a tale of good versus evil. That is carried through every piece of media born from the franchise, and that includes Star Wars Rebels. First airing in 2014, Rebels tells the story of the crew of the spaceship Ghost, otherwise known as the Spectres, as they become involved in the war between the growing Rebel Alliance and the evil Galactic Empire. While the show may not be as groundbreaking as its predecessor, The Clone Wars, this series still has great writing and storytelling. And of course, what good is a Star Wars story without good characters? In the case of Rebels, there's a wonderful roster of Jedi, Sith, Admirals, and even pirates. But of all these characters, which have the traits of a true Jedi and which are in need of a red lightsaber? Hey guys, I'm Brad with Wicked Binge, and this is Star Wars Rebels, Good to Evil. Like always, we'll be starting off the list with the most good characters and then working our way down to the most evil. These are the good. The gold medal of good goes to the captain of the Ghost, Hera Syndulla. A Twi'lek from the planet Ryloth, Hera is a fierce pilot who's devoted to the rebellion's cause. She's often the first character to sign up for a mission, and she keeps the most in contact with the other leaders of the Alliance. The Spectres excel in at least one department, and for Hera, her expertise comes in the form of leadership. All the others aboard the Ghost look to her for guidance, and she climbs higher up the Rebel chain of command as the series goes on. Hera can also be considered the matriarchal figure of the Ghost. She's motherly to the others and is understanding of whatever conflicts they find themselves in. She's really close to Kanan, who is her love interest. However, the main reason we place Hera so high is for how unwilling she is to compromise. While the other Spectres question if this rebellion will work, Hera is committed to bringing the freedom back to the galaxy. Even the death of her partner Kanan Jarrus doesn't keep her down for long. Hera wants to see the rebellion's dreams become a reality, and she's willing to die for it to happen. Unlike a lot of rebel leaders, she's not one to sit behind a podium in the Senate. Captain Syndulla will either be on the front lines of a battle or behind the cockpit of a starfighter. We don't think we're exaggerating by saying that she is the perfect rebel. In a show titled Star Wars Rebels, we think that's a pretty noteworthy accomplishment. The silver medal of good goes to Jedi Kanan Jarrus, otherwise known as Caleb Dume. Kanan was a Padawan who survived the infamous Order 66. Kanan spent most of his adult life after that as a smuggler on the Ghost, hiding his Jedi past. That all changes after he encounters Ezra Bridger. From that point on, Kanan becomes not just a Jedi Master, but a hero of the rebellion. Kanan has plenty of heroic accomplishments. He trains Ezra in the ways of the Force. Though he fears he's not in the position to become a Master, he does so anyway, and trains him. With how great of a hero Ezra became, we have to say it worked out pretty well for him. Kanan also trained Sabine in the ways of lightsaber combat, preparing her for the eventual confrontation she has with the Mandalorians. In addition, Kanan bested the Grand Inquisitor, proving that the long-thought extinct Jedi were more than a match for the might of the Empire. Kanan is by no means a perfect Jedi. Kanan has a resentment of clone troopers as a result of what they did to his master, and it causes some friction between him and Rex when they first meet. He also doubts whether or not the rebellion is a fruitful endeavor, fearing it's too early to fight against the Empire. However, those flaws mean little when you remember his defining moment, that being his sacrifice. After saving Hera from an Imperial prison, he sacrifices himself to let them get away. Not only does this save his loved ones, but it also causes the Empire's fuel deposits to be destroyed. The loss of Kanan also galvanizes the Ghost crew to continue with their liberation of Lothal, which turns out to be a huge success for the rebels. Kanan might be gone, but he went out in the most Jedi way possible. With all these feats and accomplishments, we feel that Kanan has to get this spot on the list. The bronze medal of good goes to Ezra Bridger. He's a native of Lothal who was born on the same day the Empire rose to power. Ezra starts his journey as a thief. Things change after he meets Kanan and the Ghost team, who sees something special in him. Ezra realizes the Force is strong with him and agrees to become the newest member of the Ghost. Ezra is loyal to the Alliance to a fault. He's focused on wiping out the Empire and the Sith, and this goal can blind him. He would skirt the dark side to achieve this. Thankfully, Ezra realizes when he's done wrong, and he'll always be a follower of the Jedi ways. He cares for all the members of the Ghost and sees them as family. Ezra is a problem solver too. When a battalion of old battle droids forced him, Rex, and Kanan into fighting a battle, Ezra helped the droid general realize they should be fighting together against the Empire. Ezra can also fool almost everyone, ranging from criminal gangsters to Imperial officers. Ezra's most heroic feat came during the finale. Ezra called upon a flock of Purrgil, who proceeded to pull the Star Destroyers flying over Lothal into hyperspace. The action took Ezra with it, but allowed the rebels to win back his homeworld. Ezra also took Thrawn with him, and the Elite Admiral was absent for the remainder of the war. Ezra may have had an unorthodox upbringing, but he proved to be the Jedi he believed he could be. Plus, he's a Jedi who faced both Lord Vader and the Emperor and lived. How many of those can you name? The next spot goes to Ahsoka Tano. Ahsoka was a Padawan who taught under Anakin Skywalker during the Clone Wars. Near the end of the war, she left the Order after being wrongfully accused of a bombing that occurred in the temple. All these years later, she's a helpful operative in the Alliance and as trusty with the lightsaber. Throughout the first season, Ahsoka is only ever known as Fulcrum. Under this mysterious persona, she gives the Spectres a number of missions, usually revolving around an Imperial target that must be taken out. She also sends in reinforcements when Kanan is captured aboard a Star Destroyer. She's a great aid to the Ghost, but she becomes an even bigger help in the second season. After her identity is revealed, she takes a more active role in the story. She helps train Ezra and joins them on several adventures. She takes on the Inquisitors, getting Ezra out of a predicament. Unfortunately, her help doesn't last long. After a duel with her former master, Ahsoka disappears, believed to be dead until the final episodes. Despite only a few appearances, Ahsoka made the most of it. She always helps the rebels. Whether she goes by Ahsoka, Fulcrum, or something else, Ahsoka is a rebel you can count on. Next is Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's a general in the Clone Wars and the master of Anakin Skywalker. Obi-Wan was one of the most celebrated Jedi of his time. After the rise of the Empire, many believed he had suffered the same fate as most Jedi. The Ghost crew thought the same until a holocron showed Ezra and Maul a vision of the Jedi Master. They soon depart to find him, with both parties believing he's key to achieving their goals. While he only appears in one episode, Obi-Wan makes a big impact on Ezra's journey. He teaches Ezra that his place is with his family on the Ghost, much like how Kenobi must stay on Tatooine. Obi-Wan also settles the score with Maul, finally ending his reign of evil in the galaxy. Though the former Sith has terrorized Kenobi for much of his life, he doesn't take any joy in vanquishing him. He looks at him with pity and cradles him the same way he did his master who killed Maul years prior. Of course, we'd also be remiss to mention why Obi-Wan is on such a miserable planet. No special reason, just protecting the future hero of the Jedi and the Rebellion. Now we have Princess Leia. She is the daughter of Anakin Skywalker. Leia was hidden since birth with Senator Bail Organa of Alderaan. Leia grew up to become a senator in the same way her adopted father did, and just like him, she's a valued member of the Rebellion. More than anything else, Leia desires to help others. She says it best, saying that because she can help people, she feels she must do it. In this episode, she puts her words into action by helping the rebels secure several frigates for their cause. The episode also shows her crafty side, as she tricks the Imperials into thinking she's loyal to them, when she's actually helping the rebels. She plays the part of a faithful Imperial senator who's wronged by rebels, and the Imperials buy right into it. Though this is her only appearance, she still exhibits all the traits of the Princess of Alderaan. Next is Ryder Azadi. Ryder was once the governor of Lothal. Though he appeared to be a supporter of the Empire, in reality he was very much against them, even supporting the anti-Imperial transmissions as her parents were behind. After getting out of prison, Ryder gets back into the fight for freedom. He helps out whenever the Ghost comes to Lothal, most notably during their liberation of the planet. He also helps Ezra learn what happened to his parents. The only thing that lowers Ryder's ranking is that he can be a defeatist. There were a few times that he was the first to decry a battle plan. When he first met the Ghost, he refused to fight with them, believing that he had gotten too old to be of any use to the rebellion. However, he changes his tune when he sees how committed they are to their ideals.
Well, we'll get a look at the new fighter tomorrow.
Ryder might not be the most passionate rebel, but we believe he's one you can count on more than others. And our next spot is Captain Rex. Rex is a clone trooper who served as leader of the 501st Legion. He's been largely living in secret by the time we meet him in the series. Living on a planet with almost nothing but his clone brothers Wolf and Gregor, Rex is recruited to join the Ghost, and he takes the offer. With Rex comes years of experience and military training. Rex is a great help to the rebels, helping out on a number of missions. One of his earlier appearances features him and Kanan going undercover to save Ezra and other rebels from captivity aboard a Star Destroyer. He might not serve the story in the same way our previous entries have, but he will have your back in any fight.
This is not a game. This is life and death.
Whether it be the age of the Republic or the Empire, Rex will always fight for justice. Coming up next is Yoda. Yoda's appearances in Rebels are scarce, but each time he gives great knowledge to his Jedi comrades. His first appearance is merely a voice, but this voice guides both Ezra and Kanan in the Jedi Temple of Lothal. His words lead Ezra to gaining his lightsaber crystal. Later, he appears physically to Ezra, teaching him that he must venture to the planet Malachor to defeat the Sith. Yoda isn't perfect, but he acknowledges his flaws. For instance, he points out that the Jedi and their hubris were partially to blame for their downfall, and he includes himself when he says that. He's living proof that knowledge comes with age. When Yoda has something to say, you had best listen.
Your path, you must decide.
With such a legacy, we just had to give him this spot on the list, even if his character model is a little, shall we say, freaky. Getting our next spot is Zeb. Zeb can be considered the big brother of the Ghost family. He has a tendency to be at odds with Ezra, who's definitely the little brother in their family unit. Zeb has a temper and is prone to outbursts when someone like Ezra or Chopper gets on his nerves. He can even be a troublemaker. Look at the time he lost the game of Sabacc to Lando. He bet Chopper in this game, causing the Ghost Crew to go on a whole adventure just to get him back. Though Zeb is childish, he knows that when the situation gets serious, he should be as well. He can be a very honorable warrior, which isn't surprising, considering his past as a Lasat honor guard. He's concerned when the rebels get a shipment of disruptor rifles, noting that they're the same weapons the Empire used to decimate his people. Zeb is also very forgiving. Agent Kallus was one of many Imperials who participated in his people's genocide, but Zeb helps him when they are stuck on a moon. This event not only kickstarts Kallus's defection from the Empire, but also a friendship. He also cares for his family, though he tries not to show it. He loves Ezra like a brother, even though they fight so much. As the show progresses, Zeb respects Ezra more and more. When Kanan died, Zeb was as shocked as the rest of the rebels, desiring to avenge him. In a nutshell, Zeb is the living embodiment of the phrase, hard on the outside, soft on the inside. Next is the Mandalorian graffiti artist, Sabine Wren. As a mate of the Ghost, Sabine brings a more artistic flair. Sabine excels at improv and can come up with a plan on very short notice. Like all Mandalorians, Sabine is also a great warrior. She dispatches most of her enemies with ease and doesn't let emotions cloud her judgment on the battlefield. However, she harbors a dark past, and it's for that reason we rank her lower than her friends. In her youth, Sabine was enlisted in the Imperial Academy and created various weapons for them.
She never told you how we broke out of the Imperial Academy?
One of these earned the nickname of the Duchess and was able to destroy the strong armor of the Mandalorians. Sabine was horrified when the weapon was used on her people, and her peers didn't trust her. But Sabine ultimately changed for the better. Though she doubts her abilities, she works up the courage to return to Mandalore to unite her people and defeats Governor Gar Saxon in a lightsaber duel. Her actions eventually lead to the Mandalorians joining the Alliance, which would prove to be their salvation during the Battle of Atollon. She fights alongside both the Rebellion and the Mandalorians in their quest to defeat the Empire. Sabine shows that her past isn't what defines her. Rounding out the Ghost Crew is Chopper. Chopper is like the family cat of the Ghost Crew. Like a lot of cats, he's sweet, but also pretty mean. And when we say mean, we mean sadistic. Chopper starts out innocent, playing the occasional prank on Ezra and Zeb, but he takes a darker turn. Chopper loves to make others suffer. Torturing Imperial droids, knocking stormtroopers out of an airlock, Chopper will get whatever job needs to be done in the dirtiest way possible. He's also really into explosives and loves to stock up on them. Now you'll understand why Zeb bet him in a game of Sabacc. He loves all the Ghost Crew like a family, even with all the strife he puts them through. And he's loyal to Hera, who repaired him when his ship crashed during the Clone Wars. Chopper's also gotten them out of a lot of dire straits. In the Season 1 finale, it is Chopper who informs Fulcrum that reinforcements are needed, saving the rebels from sure destruction. He also saves an Imperial droid known as AP-5, who becomes both his friend and an ally to the rebellion. Chopper is no slouch in the battlefield either. Really, it should be no surprise. With a military background going back to the Clone Wars, you could really argue that he's an even better soldier than some of the other characters. Regardless, Chopper is a lovable astromech droid. Whatever you do, just try not to upset him. Next is Saw Gerrera. Gerrera has devoted his entire life to wiping out tyranny in the galaxy. His devotion is his greatest strength, but also his greatest flaw. Saw has a more violent approach to fighting the Empire than many of the other rebel leaders. He will take out Imperial prisoners, and he believes justice can only come through fighting rather than politics. This can blind him from what is right. In the episode Relics of Geonosis, he tortures the one surviving Geonosian. He's angry at him not just for his inability to reveal what the Empire is creating on the planet, but also for his people's role in the droid army. When Ezra and the others confront him about this, he turns against them. Though his tactics are more aggressive than other rebels, he still has a conscience. He lets the Geonosian go in the end, seeing him as another victim of the Empire's reign, and he realizes he's gone too far in this instance. We also have to give him props for being the only rebel to really know anything regarding the Death Star. Though he never finds out what it is, he still knows far more than the rest of the rebel leaders. Finishing off the good area, we have Mon Mothma. If Saw Gerrera is on one side of the rebel spectrum, Mothma is on the complete opposite. Whereas Saw believes the rebellion must get their hands dirty, Mothma looks to play by the book with her politics. While both views have their strengths and weaknesses, Mothma's viewpoint appears weaker in the context of the show. This is because she isn't the greatest help to the Ghost crew. While she condemns the Empire's actions and the Ghost aids her in several missions, she doesn't exactly return the favor. When the rebels are viciously attacked on Atollon, Mothma refuses to send reinforcements, instead opting to fight for their freedom in the Senate. That's bad enough, but it becomes worse when you remember that the Empire isn't interested in taking prisoners for this battle. Ultimately, both Gerrera and Mothma are great members of the Alliance despite their opposing ideologies. When it comes down to it, we feel Gerrera was simply more helpful than Mothma. That's it for the good areas. We now move on to the characters that aren't exactly evil, but we also wouldn't call them good. This is the gray area. First is Lando Calrissian. Many of the characters in this area of the list are mostly out for themselves, and that is definitely true of Lando. A galactic entrepreneur, as he puts it, Lando is always ready to make a quick buck. The first time he met the rebels, they helped him secure a puffer pig that he was in need of. Throughout this adventure, Lando would pit the Ghost crew against each other and offers Hera as a payment in exchange for the pig.
Her name is Hera.
Whenever he appears, Lando will help the Ghost, but he always expects a little something in return. When they needed to be smuggled off of Lothal, he agreed to help them in exchange for a few shield generators. Lando might be a trickster, and he's not against using others for his own gain, but he still respects the Ghost crew and what they're trying to achieve. He's also a lot more trustworthy than other characters in the gray area. Next is Agent Kallus. Kallus is a member of the Imperial Security Bureau and has a lot of awful deeds tied to his name. He fought against the Spectres on plenty of occasions, but his worst act came before the show even started, when he helped wipe out the Lasats. That's enough to put him here, but Kallus actually turns a new leaf. After an adventure between him and Zeb, he starts to become disillusioned with the ways of the Empire. He takes on the identity of Fulcrum and begins feeding the rebels valuable intel. He's also able to, for a time, take the Empire's eyes off the planet their base is located on. Without him, the rebels might have been worse off. So you have to give him credit for that. While he is finally discovered as a traitor in the third season's finale, he escapes and continues to be of help to the rebels. Probably his most notable contribution after this is being one of several rebels to fight in the Battle of Lothal that freed the planet. He was even able to hold his own for a respectable amount of time in a fistfight with Thrawn. Kallus has done a lot of horrible things, but he has also had his share of heroic deeds. Next is Fenn Rau. Rau is a lot like Agent Kallus. He's a loyal servant to the Galactic Empire, going as far as nearly killing Hera when she appears in Mandalorian space. After the rebels capture him in an attempt to get the safe passage through the sector, his tune doesn't change much. He sees the rebels and their efforts as laughable. He begins to feel differently when he learns that his Mandalorian protectors have been wiped out by his governor, Gar Saxon. After this, he not only helps Sabine in her attempt to unite their people, but he also becomes a supporter of the Alliance. He fights against the Empire during both the battles of Atollon and Mandalore, and is as devoted to the cause as any soldier should be. Next is Ketsu Onyo. Ketsu, like Sabine, grew up as a student in Mandalore's Imperial Academy. They later defected and became bounty hunters until Sabine split off to join the Ghost. Being a bounty hunter, it should come as no surprise that she's in the gray area. Ketsu is only out for herself, and she will throw Sabine to the curb if necessary. In fact, Ketsu left Sabine for dead when she joined the Ghost. However, after they reconnect, Ketsu changes a little bit. She repairs her friendship with Sabine and becomes an ally to the rebellion. Ketsu helps him on numerous supply runs and even helps out in the liberation of Lothal. Despite her willingness to help, she turns down any offers to join them, preferring to continue her bounty hunting career. Ketsu helps the Alliance, but her profession as a bounty hunter puts her here. I mean, bounty hunting is a complicated profession after all. Our next character is Bendu. Bendu is a large creature that lives on the planet Adelon. Bendu possesses great power with the Force, as well as great knowledge regarding it. He's able to help repair the rocky relationship that Ezra and Kanan get into at one point. He also warns them of what could happen if Maul obtained both a Jedi and Sith holocron. Despite his willingness to talk with Kanan and Ezra, he refuses to participate in any conflict. In times of war, he maintains a position of neutrality, which creates a feud between him and Kanan when the Empire attacks the planet. After Kanan angers Bendu, he creates a storm that takes lives on both sides of the war, although the Ghost makes it out relatively unscathed. Being that he literally represents the middle, it makes sense that the Bendu ends up in the gray area. Strap in because our next character is Vizago. Vizago is a criminal who leads the Broken Horn Syndicate and is only interested in money. As Hera put it, he would sell his mother to Jawas if it meant he'd get a couple of credits. He's also cowardly. When the Spectres gave him a shipment of disruptor rifles, an Imperial attack caused Vizago to steal half the shipment without paying. He sees the crew of the Ghost as little more than customers, and he doesn't really care for their lives. He isn't entirely heartless. When Kanan was kidnapped, Vizago showed remorse in the fact that there was nothing he can do to help. He also participated in Lothal's liberation, though he expressed some regret when the battle seemed lost. If you ever so happen to have a buyer from the Broken Horn interested in what you're selling, try to find someone else. Our next guy is a pirate. That's right, it's Hondo Ohnaka. Given his profession as a pirate, you can guess why he's in the gray area. Hondo is treacherous and self-centered. He can and will betray anyone who helps him. Even Vizago gets scammed. While he helps the rebels on several occasions, most notably during the Battle of Lothal, he would sell them out if it meant saving his own skin. Though Hondo becomes an ally to the rebels more than Vizago did, we put Hondo lower in the gray area because he is a wild card. You don't ever quite know if he'll be fighting with you or selling you for credits. But his friendship with the rebels and disdain for the Empire is enough to keep him from being called bad. Finishing off the gray area is our last crime lord, Azmorigan. Azmorigan is powered by greed. While this can also be said of Vizago and Hondo, Azmorigan has virtually none of the positive traits they have. Azmorigan will kill somebody if they've wronged him in the past. Ezra, Hondo, and Lando have all nearly been killed by him for crossing him prior. He's also lazy and relies on his henchmen to accomplish the majority of his tasks. The only thing that keeps him out of the evil tier is that he helped out the Spectres on one occasion, but even that action was done out of his greed and laziness. Bottom line, while none of these pirates and crime lords are ones to trust, Azmorigan is the last one you should. Alright guys, that's all for the gray area. Now we move on to a most wretched hive of scum and villainy. These are the evil. First, we have the Inquisitors. Made up of the 5th brother, 7th sister, and 8th brother, these individuals were trained by Darth Vader for the sole purpose of wiping out the remaining Jedi. The Inquisitors are definitely the most evil characters on the list thus far.
Darkseid fights without mercy.
They aren't out for profit, and they have no desire to team up with the rebels either. The only thing that motivates them is the complete and utter destruction of the Jedi. This leads to many battles between them and the Spectres. They duel Kanan and Ezra several times, and although they never defeat them, they consistently send them fleeing. The Inquisitors will also go after Force-sensitive children to prevent new Jedi. The Inquisitors only make it this far on the list because they aren't as good at what they do as other characters succumb. They always fail their missions. The Inquisitors may be formidable foes, but they're only henchmen. Next is Governor Pryce. She is the governor of Lothal, and she is deceitful. She used a lot of tricks to become governor, no matter how dirty they may have been. When the show starts, she has a problem on her hands. That problem is the rebellion. For the first 2 seasons, Pryce seldom makes appearances, and her efforts to stop the Alliance fail more often than not. Her failure to stop them leads to the rebellion's growth, but she soon finds someone who might be of use in stamping them out. This man is Grand Admiral Thrawn, who takes a more active role in weeding out the rebels than Pryce. This is the main reason we rank her so low. Though Pryce is evil, her wins are few and far between. Even when they get the rebels on the run, that can mostly be attributed to Thrawn's presence. Her one major accomplishment was destroying Lothal's fuel depot, leading to the death of Kanan Jarrus. Though it resulted in the death of a Jedi, the fuel depot was what Thrawn's secret projects relied on. In other words, even her most notable victory could still be called a failure. Pryce is more competent than the Inquisitors, but she's one of the more flawed villains. It helps to take a growing rebellion a little seriously. Next is Thrawn's top agent, Rook. Rook is Thrawn's bodyguard and errand boy. Rook is incompetent. He rarely secures a victory, and even dies during the rebels' liberation of Lothal. However, Rook is a more dangerous adversary than the previous entries. Whenever he seems down, he gets back up. When it appears that he's been dispatched during the liberation, he appears again to disable the planet's shield generator. He's a strong warrior, and one that the rebels have a tough time keeping down. His biggest feat was when he captured Hera during her failed attack on Lothal. Though she was eventually captured, this act had major ramifications on the Ghost Crew going forward, most notably resulting in Kanan's death. And he didn't need to destroy a fuel depot to do it. Though Rook's appearances are few, he isn't exactly the scariest individual. Rook is a talented assassin. If you're the bodyguard to someone like Thrawn, you have to be doing something right. Next is the leader of the Inquisitors, the Grand Inquisitor. Fascinating name, we know. Like his dark side brethren, the Grand Inquisitor was a former Jedi Lord Vader taught in the ways of the dark side. Unlike those other Inquisitors, the Grand Inquisitor is a dangerous adversary. The Grand Inquisitor possesses a lot more knowledge regarding his Jedi foes, being able to tell exactly which master taught a Jedi just from seeing their lightsaber form. The Grand Inquisitor has led several Jedi to their death in a prison on the planet Stygian Prime. He then uses them as bait to lure other Jedi to their doom, a tactic that almost claimed the lives of Kanan and Ezra. The Grand Inquisitor is definitely more evil than previous characters, but he still suffers from some of the same incompetence they do. He does a bad job getting rid of the Ghost Crew that Grand Moff Tarkin has to come to the rescue. Also, we feel there's one other double-bladed lightsaber-wielding character who's just a tad more evil than him. If you know, you know. Next is Maul. Maul was thought to be killed a decade prior to the Clone Wars. However, that wasn't the case, and Maul reappeared after the war began, causing trouble for the Jedi and carving his own path in the criminal underworld. By the time we meet him in Rebels, Maul is a lot different than prior incarnations. He is a man who hates the Sith and is willing to help Ezra and friends defeat them. He proves his loyalty when he dispatches all 3 of the Inquisitors that track them to the planet Malachor. Maul soon shows his true colors and blinds Kanan. These moments, just minutes apart, show Maul's character perfectly. Though he doesn't ally himself with the Sith or Empire, he can still be just as evil.
Running away again, Lady Tano.
After that encounter, he hijacks the ghost ship and promises to execute its crew if Kanan and Ezra don't return him a holocron. When they do, he tries to throw Kanan out of the airlock. In many ways, Maul is a dark reflection of Ezra. Both are enamored with trying to defeat the Sith, but both take on different paths, like when they both go after Obi-Wan, who they see as a key to achieving their goal. While Ezra tries to persuade him to join their cause, Maul would rather kill Obi-Wan and take whatever he's protecting himself. Maul is a more dangerous adversary than others, but he still has shades of incompetence, albeit in different ways. Maul never learns from his past mistakes. It seems fitting that the character who kills him happens to be the same who cut him in half decades earlier. Also, like we mentioned prior, his desire to end the Sith makes him more honorable than other evil characters. He's still evil, but his goal is ultimately commendable. In 5th place is Mandalore's governor, Gar Saxon. Saxon is a most devious Mandalorian. He desires power. This lust prompted him to become allies with the Empire, as he knew they would make him the planet's governor due to his loyalty. Saxon is a treacherous warrior as well. He did serve under Maul. He hated Fenn Rau's protectors and wiped them out when he was held captive as a prisoner of the Alliance. When Sabine comes back to the planet, he orders her clan to capture the Jedi. They do, but he argues they conspired with the traitor Sabine, prompting him to attempt to execute them. Of course, Saxon only says this because he desires more power. In his mind, a perfect Mandalore would be one where no clans exist, and the Mandalorians serve him. Thankfully, Sabine ends his tyrannical reign and unite her people in the fight against the Empire. Saxon deserves this spot because he succeeded in his goals. While somebody like Maul failed to stop the Sith and the Grand Inquisitor failed at stopping the rebels, Saxon wanted to rule Mandalore, and he did so for most of the Empire's reign. Fourth place goes to Grand Moff Tarkin. Tarkin comes to Lothal to whip the planet's Imperials into shape against the Resistance. To say things take a sharp turn would be an understatement. We think the scene that best shows Tarkin's character is when he orders 2 low-ranking Imperial officers into his office. He notes their failure to stop the rebels in the past, and shortly after, orders the Grand Inquisitor to decapitate them, stating that mistakes will no longer be tolerated. While all the other Imperials are shaken by the action, Tarkin barely reacts to it. After that, Tarkin leads a successful mission to capture Kanan Jarrus. Though the rebels soon lead a mission of their own to rescue him, Tarkin doesn't take defeat lying down. He brings in Darth Vader to take care of the insurgency, and later orders Grand Admiral Thrawn to participate in the campaign. Tarkin could be lower on the list, but his successors just have a better set of accomplishments. Look, Tarkin is no slouch. When this guy steps on screen, you know things are about to get worse. Getting the Bronze Medal of Evil is Grand Admiral Thrawn. Appearing at the beginning of the 3rd season, Thrawn becomes the new antagonist. He's one of the Empire's greatest admirals, and loyal to their cause in return. While Tarkin might be the bigger villain in the overall Star Wars saga, Thrawn is definitely the greater villain in Rebels. Thrawn's success on the battlefield mostly comes from him being a master strategist. He tries his best to understand his enemies, and not just from their battle tactics. He also analyzes things such as art to get a better understanding of his enemies. When he begins to take part in the fight against the Alliance, Thrawn has them on the run. He locates their secret base on the planet Atollon and drives them away, killing many in the process. In addition, he discovers that the Imperial who is feeding the Alliance info is Kallus. Thrawn is always pushing for new pieces of equipment to help rid the galaxy of the rebels. The most notable of these was the TIE Defender project, a new TIE variant that was more powerful than the standard edition. Thrawn will kill civilians if it means victory. He begins to bombard Lothal after Ezra refuses to surrender. Ezra changes his tune when he proves his words. Thrawn is a dangerous adversary. When the rebels' plan to liberate Lothal finally took shape, they had to wait for him to leave the planet for it to begin. Thrawn eventually returns and fails to stop the rebels, but it shows how afraid the Alliance is of him. Thrawn is one of the most dangerous villains in the entire Star Wars universe. One can only wonder how differently things would have gone for the Alliance if he would have been around during the original trilogy. The Silver Medal of Evil goes to Darth Vader. He was once a great Jedi and hero of the Clone Wars. Vader was seduced by the dark side and wiped out all the Jedi Knights. I'm sure you all know that already, but just had to check. Anyways, Vader is the scariest individual the Ghost Crew have ever faced. The first time they encountered him, he beat Kanan and Ezra. While they escaped, this battle proved how strong Vader was. Even an Imperial walker being dropped on him wasn't enough to keep him down. Afterwards, he presses on to attack the Rebel fleet, taking many ships out all by himself. While Rebels has great pilots, it would not be wrong to believe that Vader outdoes all of them. Vader battles him again on Malachor at the end of Season 2, and it takes a valiant last stand by Ahsoka for them to get away. Darth Vader ranks so high on this list because he's the literal personification of evil. Vader represents the Empire and all of its villainy. Just like Tarkin, Vader is a villain whose appearance always acts as a signifier for when things are about to get worse. Vader is cold and emotionless. Ironically, the only time we do see genuine emotion is when his helmet becomes damaged from dueling with Ahsoka, showing the human underneath. Darth Vader also has a more impressive body count than most other villains, having killed many Jedi, rebels, and civilians. Being the villain that almost all the others on the list, from Thrawn to the Inquisitors, report to, also helps solidify his place as one of the show's greatest villains. The Gold Medal of Evil goes to Darth Sidious, but most know him better as Emperor Palpatine. In the Star Wars universe, Palpatine represents the devil. He played both sides of the Clone Wars from the beginning, wiped out the Jedi, and reorganized the Republic into the first ever Galactic Empire. Palpatine doesn't appear until the last few episodes of the series, but his influence on the galaxy is felt from the first episode. Imperial propaganda runs rampant throughout the series, displaying him as the great hero of the Empire. Palpatine has his fingers in almost every Imperial plan. Whether it's securing Kyber crystals or trying to discover the mystery behind the Lothal Temple, know that Palpatine is likely behind it. What really gets him this top spot is his role in the finale. Palpatine is Ezra's final challenge. Thrawn introduces Ezra to a hologram of the fabled Emperor. Palpatine attempts to get Ezra to reveal the secret behind the fabled World Between Worlds by offering him a chance to reunite with his parents. The move ultimately fails, but it proves to be a great test for Ezra, showing how far he's come. For these reasons, we have to give Palpatine the top spot. Plus, he's the guy Darth Vader reports to. Before we become one with the Force, let's give out some medals to the characters who deserve them the most. Earning the Darwin Medal is Governor Pryce. She may not be the dumbest character, but destroying your entire fuel depot is certainly the dumbest thing anyone in the series has done. Next is the Pride Medal, which we're giving to Grand Moff Tarkin, who views everyone around him as below him. It's definitely a trait a lot of Imperials have, but he exemplifies it best. The Wrath Medal goes to Darth Vader. Between his body count and role as the face of the Empire, how can we not give him this one? Next is the Lust Medal, which goes to Az Morgan, as it is a trait that shines through during his interactions with Hera Syndulla. The Sloth Medal goes to our good buddy Chopper. Hey, even droids can be lazy sometimes. We believe the Envy Medal fits Maul best, who's most certainly envious of Lord Vader for taking the spot in the galaxy that was originally promised to him. The Gluttony Medal goes to Hondo Ohnaka. One can never have enough wealth, as far as he's concerned. And finally, the Greed Medal goes to Bazago. We did say he would sell his mother for some credits. Alright guys, that's the list! Let us know in the comments section if you agree with our ranking, and tell us what we should cover next. Remember to hit that notification bell and binge our Good to Evil playlist, where we break down the morality of the characters in your favorite cartoons, shows, and movies. But most importantly, stay wicked.